The room's a mess because I'm packing. It is Tuesday, the 30th of June, and I'm currently packing for UltraEbre, which is taking place in 4 days, so it's this Saturday. UltraEbre is a 31-kilometre downriver swim down the river Ebro in Spain. I'm doing UltraEbre because I wanted a bit of a challenge around particularly my speed. It is a speedy swim. There is an overall cutoff of 8 hours for the whole thing. Now, in some years, I think everyone in the event finished within 5 hours or something. It was super speedy because the current was on their side. And I'm hoping this year is one of those years. Not because I'm too slow, but I think certainly knowing that there's cut-offs, because there's a 5-hour cut-off at about 20 kilometers as well. Knowing that there's cut-offs, knowing that I don't want to be holding people back. I want it to be smooth for me. My husband now, Josh, we got married a few weeks ago. He will be kayaking for me, and we had our first kayaking lesson a week ago. So it's a bit, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I've had my eye on the Marathon River Swim series for a little while, of which UltraEbre is one. There's also, I'm going to butcher this, Flot de Gabrière in France, which is about the same sort of distance. And there's also, let's Google this real quick. This feels like classic Brit, not being able to pronounce the names of these places. It's because also, well, I've always had my eye on the Marathon River Swim series because I once did the Thames Marathon swim. I did it once post-COVID where they actually had to shorten it to about 10 kilometers, and then I wanted to do it again. So I did it in 2022, I think, and that was a really great swim. Glommerdippen is in Norway. So those are the 3 swims that are part of the Marathon River Swim series. I do this one, and I do this one well, because then I will be very motivated to complete the other 2, because Le Flot de Gabrière is usually in June, and you've got Glommerdippen in August, so potentials there. Now, I love sea swims. I love that it scares me more and it's more motivating for me to take part because I feel like I'm challenging myself, but there are naturally some things that I don't like as much about sea swimming. I don't like that it's always so salty. So I did Ultra Swim 33.3 in May in Croatia, and I got salt mouth. And that was only swimming 33 kilometers over 4 days. So I'm hoping that this is gonna be a really nice freshwater swim. The rivers there are generally quite clean, so there's no concerns about any sewage or anything like that, like we might worry about in England, or certainly not as much as there could be elsewhere. I think it's also really nice to get Josh more involved in my swimming, in the sense that he's usually on the crew anyway, but this gets him a bit more involved and right there in the action, which is quite nice. The only thing that's really making me nervous is the cut-offs, if only because I can't predict what it's going to be like on the day. So if it is a slower current, I'm not swimming 31 kilometers in 8 hours. No matter what swimmer you are, I think some people would really struggle, particularly. But with a faster current, we can get to the end and I can enjoy it a lot more. One thing that's helping me is considering it more as an experiment. Am I going to be able to do it? Is this something that I can encourage other swimmers who are maybe slower swimmers to take part in? Because I generally know I can do the distance, but it's whether or not I can keep my pace up enough. I think particularly as well, the temperatures there are due to be like 30 degrees for the whole week that I'm there. Wednesday to Sunday I'm there. So electrolytes are being packed. Not as we speak, obviously, because I'm here. So I'm packing the electrolytes and making sure I'm going to be cool as well around the swim, so I'm not overheating, not stressing my body out like the last week has been like in the UK with super hot temperatures. I'm really excited to meet a whole load of new swimmers though, because I actually know no one who's going. I'd not really heard of UltraEbre before in the marathon swimming circuit. I think one of the things that does put people off is the fact that usually you need your own kayaker, but one thing, like, I was asked in advance if I needed to have a kayaker provided for me, so there are people available to do that, but I thought it'd be some lovely post-marital bonding to have Josh with me, so But otherwise, yeah, it is just really exciting to try out a swim that I haven't actually really heard of before or engaged with, because there's certainly some swims that are, you know, the usual circuit of long distance swims in the UK. This is one of the few ultra marathon swims that is actually a mass start event, because you wouldn't have an English Channel with a mass start necessarily. Like, the safety would be too difficult to coordinate. The longest one I'm aware of in the UK is Windermere as a mass start swim. Please let me know of any more in the comments if you're aware of any. But otherwise, this is quite rare. This isn't something like, we haven't got a 30-kilometre stretch of river in the UK that people want to swim down right now. Well, I'm particularly excited. I'm also excited to have a bit of time off in Spain and have I was going to say a relax. It doesn't feel like much of a relax, but when there's a swim involved. But I'm trying to take the pressure off myself, because I do add on my own pressure quite a bit. Otherwise, just generally looking forward to it. Quite excited. Yeah, very excited.
Can't wait to enjoy your holiday. For now, you must stay seated and buckled up until the captain turns off the seatbelt sign.
When you do get up to go, please make sure you've got your phone, passport, keys and all other valuables. Anything left behind will be handed to our ground team here. Take care when you open the overhead lockers, as some things may have moved during the flight. Just so you know, you're not allowed to smoke or vape on the way to the terminal or in the terminal itself.
Our friendly customer helpers are all ready and waiting to help you. You can't miss them. They're wearing our famous red uniform and, of course, a big welcoming smile.
Okay, so I am officially now in Tortosa. We've had a bit of a rest, a bit of a settle in today. We got here really early in the morning. We landed about 9 AM local time, and we then got to the hotel, settled in and been exploring. There's a lovely pool here, so we've been trying to use that a little bit and unpack and generally get our bearings. We've already made a little stop, for example, just to get some snacks. I also want to apologise in advance. I don't think I'm very good at vlogging. This is my second attempt at a vlog. I tried to do a vlog before, but I've been doing short form content creation for about a year and a half. And the beauty of short form is that you can film for about 5 minutes and have a video out of that. And it can be really fun and it's really intentional usually, but vlogs you always have to be on. So if you're doing several days, you have to keep remembering. And I am very good at focusing. So if I'm focusing on my swim, I'm not necessarily focusing on content vlogging. So this is all a bit of an experiment. Hope you enjoy. Feedback, please. First impressions so far. We've already been able to see Louis, who is the organiser of UltraEbre. I haven't seen anyone else who's obviously a swimmer and part of the event. The next day, we wanted to get out early to explore Tortosa, but even so, Josh kept reminding us it was too hot. So Josh, you're my kayaker for Saturday. It's now Thursday? So how are you feeling about the whole thing?
I don't know, I'm a little bit nervous. Yeah, I don't really kayak, so I suppose it's just a bit nervous, because obviously I want you to succeed and not fail because I'm dying in a kayak.
What does dying in a kayak look like?
You'll see on the day.
Like heat, exhaustion,
yeah,
tiredness?
It just feels like, you know, if I'm hot and I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, what is it going to be like on water where it's reflecting off the body back onto me, body of water that is. I'm gonna have to be creamed up,
sun creamed up.
Just make sure you're good, really. I mean, it doesn't really bother me as a kayaker. Just gotta make sure you get it done.
Yeah.
And if you start going slowly, I'll just use the kayak, give it a bit of a whack.
Yeah, okay, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, it'll help it.
It might be the end of me. I mean, we had a kayak session in prep, didn't we?
Yeah, in Bristol Floating Harbour, by the way, disgusting. Bristol City Council sort that out.
This river's going to be, I think, much nicer in comparison. So you might be able to splash yourself with water. There'll be moments of shade, hopefully.
Moments of shade where? I'm looking at the river right now. Well, there are a few trees actually, so maybe there might be.
And there's a bridge there. There'll be some shade under that. We're setting off early in the morning. Tortosa is such a beautiful place to wander around. We spent the morning exploring, and everywhere we turned there seemed to be something worth stopping for. The cathedral is incredible, and one thing we noticed straight away was that life runs a little later here than we're used to in the UK. It gives the whole place a really relaxed pace that was lovely to soak up. So we've just walked over that bridge over the River Ebro, and it was actually a really good recce for the water and what it's going to be like. You could quite get a sense of how fast it's moving, because you got to see some of the wildlife as well. So we saw some fish in the water. They were quite big, but I knew that there would be big fish in the water anyway. But one of the things we were warned about was an invasive species of blue crab. Now I thought, oh, that might be interesting to look at. I've never seen a crab in a river before, but I've never seen, essentially there was a blue crab and we just caught it going down the river, go up by the water, and it did eventually sort of disappear. But yeah, felt quite novel because I hadn't seen that before. Otherwise, yeah, lovely place. It is going to be a scorcher though, because it's only about 11 a.m. and I feel like I'm burning up and I've got sun cream on. So, beautiful forehead tan line I'm anticipating after the swim on Saturday. Now this afternoon Josh and I had a bit of a relax by the pool again, but what we did do was also pick up our registration packs, plural, for UltraEbre. So I'll talk you a little bit through mine. There's the essentials bit, so we've got some tattooed with numbers on of your swim race number to be able to go on the backs of your hands, on your arms and on your back. So these are quite a big safety requirement they have for UltraEbre. It all came in this lovely bag, so you can already see there was a fair amount of stuff. There's a lanyard with your race credentials on, so it says Adele Benson, athlete, which feels very official. I very much like it. And also this gorgeous gold cap. But I got one of these UltraEbre swim marathon tops. Then there's goodies from some other sponsors. So we've got a swim hat from the Magic 5. Now, this looks like a lot of nutrition, and it is. There is honestly so much. Protein bars, creatine bars, energy chewies, other big energy gels, another energy gel, another energy bar. We've also got some sports drinks, so like electrolytes and things. Some of that is pulled from mine and Josh's, because Josh won't like or need a lot of them. They have loads of information from Healthy Seas, including, and this is a first for swim events, 2 pages of stickers. And as you can see, they are really swimmer coded, I think perfectly for someone like me. Big fan. And also lots of really great information that you can actually use about them. A hydration drink, sports bottle. I got one of these little pouches. I don't know what for. I think it might have been made locally. But it's very nice. We also got a key ring to commemorate the swim. We also got a 1.5 litre bottle of water. And that's not all, because one of the requirements for the swim is that you need to bring a kayaker to support you. They can provide things like boats and the paddles and life jackets, and I think actually for an extra cost you can pay for somebody to be coming and kayaking for you, which I think is also really accessible for people who maybe don't have someone in their life who's willing to do that. But I have brought my husband Josh, who is going to be kayaking for me, and he got a registration bag too that was just as heavy as mine. So he also got his own t-shirt, his own credentials, his own nutrition, water bottles. The only thing that Josh didn't get was the swim hats and the tattoos, which are the kind of the requirements needed to be able to do the swim. Yeah, they obviously really look after their people, which I expected, but it just feels like one of those events that has just gone above and beyond entirely, which is really relieving. I think it helps as well when you've got events where people are generally staying in the same areas. Now it's a bit more evident who is actually involved in UltraEbre, particularly because they tend to congregate around the swimming pool. So you find lots of swimmers and you can usually see who's got the kit. So it's starting to get a real buzz around it, which is really wonderful. I'm not going to keep on rambling because tomorrow's Friday and there is a 2-hour practice session that we can do. So we have decided to do that to make sure that we're going to be really comfortable, to get a sense for the pace in the water, which we imagine is going to be fast considering our blue crab friend, which apparently there's quite a few of. So we'll get an impression for how it is. It looked really clear. So feeling positive. But yeah, see you tomorrow. Ready for kayaking? Breakfast is eaten. Ready for the practice today.
Oh wow.
One thing that
There's Adele swimming in. Come in. Come in. Come in. Aim. There we go. Yep. Keep going. Keep going.
Now.
No, that way, sideways. Brilliant. Well done.
Right.
Hey. Right, I'll come over there and bring you your shoes, okay? Okay.
So we've just come back from the practice swim that we did, that a group of us did. It's a free practice that you can do. You catch a car to the start line of the swim and do the first 7.5 or so kilometers of the swim to see how it is, get a feel for it, go super fast, as was the case. And yeah, really get a feel for it, acclimatise a little. So we wanted to take them up on that offer. It was a really good idea because it's actually quite wide for a river that goes so fast. So one of the things I noticed was that there were points where there were like eddies. It was then like the tide was going the other way almost. So I was looking down at reeds next to each other where one was going with the flow of the river and the other one looked like they were being dragged backwards. And it was really surreal, but it meant that I knew that I needed to be further to the right at that like 2 kilometer point than I thought. But for a good minute or so, I was a bit disorientated and I was like, I don't feel like I'm moving. Well, near the start, there were also quite a few blue crabs, which are an invasive species in the area. I saw quite a few little fish on the way as well, which were really cute. But as I got further on, I could see like shadows further away. And sometimes on top of the water, you'll see just splashes suddenly coming up. But when you're swimming, they tend to want to avoid you. So if they didn't even realise you were there and suddenly your hand's entering the water, they'll zip off. Another point, I got beached, which feels really embarrassing to say, but I got beached because there were some quite shallow bits. Now, they were great because you could feel the water moving over the top of them really quickly. You got a real sense of how fast you were going, but there were points where I literally just had to try and float as high up on the water as I could. But at one point I literally stood up and looked around like, where can I even go from here? I was the slowest, and for a lot of it, I was on my own because for this practice swim they had one safety boat, and so because I'm not familiar with the water here and the route, I was a bit, what would I even say? Unnerved is probably the right word. I was a little bit unnerved because I just wasn't familiar with the area. And particularly when I was beached, I was quite frustrated, thinking, I don't even know if this is where I'm meant to be. It wasn't. I had gone around one of the islands the wrong way and it hadn't been marked. For the event itself, we have our own personal kayaker, so I will be trusting him quite a lot to do a lot of the navigation, giving me feeds and things like that, which will be quite good, because I did 7.5 kilometers in under an hour and 40 minutes. Like, I think my pace was something like 1 minute 20 seconds, if not faster, per 100 meters. So it was really nice, actually. It was quite satisfying to look at my watch every now and again and go, I have made really good progress. Otherwise, I'm feeling optimistic. Everyone is really friendly that I've spoken to. I'm pretty happy with the setup I've had and what Josh and I have prepped, because we went all out this morning acting essentially as though this is it, the real thing. So we knew what to pack, knew what to put where, and I felt really comfortable and confident with it. Otherwise, for the rest of today, it's currently 1 o'clock, so lunch will be opening at about 1:30 at the hotel. We're probably going to eat here, have a rest by the pool, relax in the sun, make the most of the nice weather. 7 o'clock tonight when we have the briefing, and then there's a group dinner afterwards for about 8:30. We've sat down for dinner early and we've just had the main event briefing the night before the swim.
I think it was very good energy, but there were a few key bits, which is like, by the way, this turn here, you have to do something special.
It wasn't very clear in the water today when I was swimming, because when I was swimming for the practice, I was the last swimmer and it wasn't very obvious. I passed 2 of these islands without realising, but actually for each island there is a correct way to go. We've only just found that out now and it's not very clear which one is which. And Josh, my kayaker, is responsible for knowing that, but it's not necessarily obvious in the briefing notes either and in the briefing document. So I think we're a bit nervous about that.
I think the big one for me is you don't want to let your swimmer down by like just some sort of like stupid mistake, like if we go left instead of right and you end up in a whirlpool when my kayak spins round and
or we get beached. Yeah, we don't know what we don't know. I'm not holding Josh to a standard that he can't meet, and ultimately this is meant to be a fun swim. The goal of all our swims is to have fun.
is it?
Well, you're not usually this involved, but the goal of every swim is to have fun and be surviving at the end. At another point, it felt like I was stuck in an eddy, so hopefully, with a kayaker, I can avoid it. It is 4:40 on Saturday, the 4th of July. Oh, I don't feel ready for this. I've had such a bad sleep. Okay. So, UltraEbre has now officially finished. It is the day after. Since it happened, we have been absorbing, I think, speaking to other swimmers. After the swim itself, I had to have a little massage on my neck, on my trap, because that was feeling quite tender and still is a little bit sore. We managed to have a bit of a rest and a relax, speaking to people over a few drinks, have a bit of a celebration, and then we promptly had dinner, because dinner doesn't start here until 8:30, which is quite late for us. And then came back here and quickly went to sleep, so there was no debrief happening yesterday. So in terms of the event, we were up at, I think, 4:40ish, grabbing our stuff, going down to breakfast, having some breakfast for the buses at 5:30. From the swimmers' perspective, it was all quite smooth. We got to a swimming pool up at Tiveni's, so we were able to use their changing rooms. To get these tattoos on, we had to use the water from the pool to be able to get things to stick on. Well, and then we could put on sun cream and anything else, anti-chafe, stuff like that. We went down to the dock, had a bit of a delay from the initial start time, but then we were off round the first bend to where the kayakers were, so it's probably about 1.5 kilometers in-ish. And as you go through these buoys, you've got people shouting, saying what numbers are coming through, but I don't think the swimmers had stretched out enough by that point for people to then separate. So I just saw like a wall of swimmers and kayakers, so I was just trying to get through to where we needed to go. Josh joined me and we were off properly. So Josh kayaked for me the whole way, so he had to feed me, point me in the right direction and keep my spirits up. But the first 20 kilometres of the swim was super fast. I did 20k in about 4 hours. Probably more like 4 hours 20, because the last, from about 15 kilometres of swimming, which takes you to Tortosa, which is where we are, it starts to slow down the momentum a bit. You're still going faster, but you're not going as fast. So there was a 5 hour cutoff, and according to my watch, from when we actually started the swim, we'd been going for 4 hours 20 by the time we hit that 5 hour cutoff, which I thought was pretty good. But we were also aware that there was a kayaker nearby that represented like the cutoff mark. I don't believe many people were cut off in the process. We weren't aware of anyone. We don't know of anyone who DNF, so it perhaps wasn't as strict as we thought it was, but it did sort of cause a bit of panic and worry for me, because at first I was under the impression we were to be cut off, and then it turns out we weren't at all. So I was sort of waiting around like, are we getting out? What's the plan? Whereas I could have been swimming. And then we carried on another 5k. Then we were at that sort of 20k mark. And you've got then sort of the last 10k. Now, they always say you're sort of fighting an incoming tide. And I thought, you're still so far away from the coast at Unported. Like, how bad can it really be? So I tried to go in with a really positive mindset of, oh, it can't be that bad. However, it was. It really was. It took me probably about just like a little bit longer than my usual 10k time to be able to do the 10 kilometers in. And it was that part, because I'm a longer distance swimmer, and I think my feeding strategy was really good. I was using precision fuel and hydration, and I had a couple of sips of their carb drink and a carb gel for every single stop I had. At some points at half an hour, at some points at 45 minutes, to make sure that I wasn't losing my reserves. So then when it came to the harder bit, we wouldn't stop as often, so we were only stopping every 45 minutes for that one for feeds, and it meant we could make more progress without stopping and feeling like we were getting pushed back. The river was still going towards the sea. It was the wind especially that was really strong on top, so particularly the kayakers had to really push for the last 10k. There's also like a bit of worry around cut-offs at the very end, so I thought I was going to get cut off at 20 kilometers and I didn't. So I wasn't then going to push for extra hours to then find I wasn't going to complete the swim, only maybe like a kilometre away. So I was pushing really hard in that process, because we knew that there was a final bridge, and whilst the cutoff is usually 8 hours, there's a final bridge, and as long as you are at that bridge, they will probably let you through, and they estimate it's about 15 minutes from that bridge to the end, so they give about 15 minutes leeway. Now, according to their results, there was somebody who finished with 8 hours and 30 minutes, so there's a lot more leeway than I think they would maybe usually give. I think particularly because they said this year's conditions were quite a bit worse than last year's. They think there was about half an hour difference between people who finished last year and the people who are finishing this year. But I kept on pushing throughout this. We were told, oh, you might have, you need to be under the bridge in half an hour or you're getting cut off. And at this point, according to my watch, I still thought I had plenty of time, and I finished in 7 hours and 52 minutes or so. So I definitely had time to be able to keep going, but you could see it definitely, like the people in front of us had been told the same, so they definitely got a bit of like a pep in their step to keep on going and keep pushing at that point. And then we reached the end, and it was, I'm not gonna lie, it's one of the harder finishes I had to do, if only because there's quite a high platform that you finish on, and you're expected to lift yourself out of the water. There's no ladder, no ramp or anything, and by that point, after about 8 hours of swimming, I wasn't in a position to then go, oh, I'm going to hoist myself up. So I didn't, and I got help, and I felt really bad because one lady tried to pull me, but she kind of just grabbed my arm and pulled, and then screamed out in pain. I was probably a little bit dramatic because I was feeling a bit sensitive after all the "you're gonna make it, you're not gonna make it," and managed to sort of get beached on the side and just sort of be like, "Ow," because it did hurt, but I felt really bad because it wasn't her fault. I think it was just that I hadn't realised quite how much pain I was in at that point. I think in particular this morning, I've woken up and been quite affected by sunburn. Tell me you look like a Brit abroad without telling me you look like a Brit abroad. We tried to get good sun cream and it hasn't worked. But it has been really enjoyable. As an event, as a way to meet other people, I think it's really novel, UltraEbre, because it's a massive start event while being a proper ultra swim. It's so novel where you've got the first 20 kilometres being so fast, and it's such a mental shift to then go, okay, now you need to push. And it's very reminiscent of me for a number of swims where they then go, now you've got to push, and it's near the end. So it's a really great skill to have, I think. Josh says his favourite bit was finishing. I think my favourite bit was being able to sort of be in the really fast bits. It was like being in some sort of like river rapids, but there were some points that I also really enjoyed where it's like there's some little islands and you have to go one side or another to be able to go around them. At one point Josh was like, you need to get over there fast. And it was nice having those little bursts where you had to sort of push a bit just to make sure you're on the correct side of the island, and it sort of then would whoosh you along a little bit. So in so many ways, it was just such a fun swim. It was so warm as well. The water, I think, was 24, 25 degrees. Like, nobody was in a wetsuit whatsoever. We didn't have too many problems with things like bug. On the sheet it mentioned you need to keep an eye out for the black fly, so we'd gotten like anti-bug spray for Josh being on the water, but it ultimately wasn't a problem for us. And the invasive species of blue crab. Now, I saw loads of these on the practice swim on the Friday, and consequently saw absolutely none yesterday during the actual swim. I didn't even see many fish either, but I think because the bulk of people who took part were ahead of me on the swim, it meant that when I was coming along, most of it had dispersed and been a bit worried, so they might have gone to other edges or other parts of the river to hide for a little bit. Otherwise, we are packing up, getting ready to go back home. I will be doing everything I can to scrub these off in the process, these tattoos, and then get ready to head home back to Bristol tonight. Thanks for coming along.